Welcome back to the Caregiver Minute, where every weekday family and professional caregivers gather to refine their skills, gain inspiration, and prepare to serve. As human beings, our tendency for self-preservation is quite strong. So if a person approaches us and accuses us of wrongdoing, and we feel justified and don't think that we're in the wrong at all, we're likely to get very defensive. And if that happens, then you got a tug-of-war on your hands and things tend to go south. We all run into situations where we get accused of things and we feel justified in what we did. So how do you deal with that? Well, instead of getting all defensive about it, sometimes we need to really pace people where they are and be empathetic. For example, about 10 years ago, I was sitting in my office at the memory care community where I used to work, and I heard a sound and I looked up to see one of my residents' daughters standing in the doorway. And as soon as we made eye contact, I knew that I was in trouble. She was shooting daggers at me, and she aggressively walked into the room. She said, "Eric, I'm so mad I could spit right now." I said, "Well, what's going on?" She said, "I showed up to see my dad this morning, and he looks totally disheveled. He is sitting at the breakfast table with his hair all ruffled, his face hasn't been shaved, and he's in his pajamas. I can't believe you people would let him do that. This is the 4th time that I've come in the last week, and I find him looking that way out in public at the breakfast table. This is awful, and I'm about to go complain to the state about it." Now, it would be very easy in that moment to try to justify our actions and explain to her that her dad has seemed to have a real preference lately for sleeping in. And instead of trying to force everybody to get up at the exact same time, we've been trying to listen to her dad. And he wanted to come out right at breakfast time because he had just gotten up and he was hungry and he didn't want to take time to do his hair or get in the shower or shave or get dressed. That wouldn't have gone over very well, though. It would have felt like I was trying to justify something when she saw a clear-cut problem. So instead, I said, "Oh, that's awful. I would be so upset if I showed up to see my mom or my dad and they looked that way. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'm so glad that you raised the issue. I have some ideas about what we could do about it, but gosh, I mean, you're paying us to do a better job than that. You deserve better than this." And she started to calm down because she could see that I took it seriously. And then I stepped forward and said, "I think I have some ideas about how we might fix this. I think I know the root cause of this because we've had some discussions as a team, and I think we may have made the wrong choice." She said, "Wrong choice? What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, we noticed that your dad seemed a little bit more fatigued than usual in the mornings, and we were trying to let him sleep as long as he seemed to want to, and then to just roll into the day. And we were really trying to treat this as his home, and we thought, well, if he was at his home and he didn't feel like getting up earlier, but he got up and he was hungry and it was time for breakfast, he'd probably come out in his pajamas before showering or getting his hair done or shaving or anything like that. And so we were just trying to accommodate him and to roll with it. I can see that maybe that isn't the best choice. Maybe that's not what you'd prefer that we do for your dad. We could certainly get him up earlier and make sure that he's all cleaned up and presentable because you're right. The dining room in our community is a little bit different than in a private home. There are a lot of other people around at that point. And if you want us to have him all shined up by breakfast time, we can certainly do that." And she stopped me and she said, no, actually, oh my goodness, I hadn't thought about that. You know, even when he was living at home, sometimes my dad didn't like to get up before about 7:30 or 7:45 in the morning. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong here. Maybe I've overreacted. And it was fun to watch the wheels spin there. And she ended up talking herself out of her own complaint. She literally said, "I'm so sorry, Eric. I jumped the gun here. I think you're right. It's more important that my dad get the sleep that he needs, and he can get cleaned up after breakfast." I said, "Have you ever come later in the day and seen him looking like you did this morning?" She said, "No. He consistently looks good when I come in the afternoon. You're absolutely right. I don't think we have a problem here. I'm so sorry to interrupt you." I said, "That's fine. I'm really glad we could talk about it. And I'm glad that you would feel comfortable bringing a legitimate concern to me so that we could work through it and make sure that we're on the same page. Is there anything else that I could do that would be helpful? She said, not right now. I just appreciate you taking time to listen. I hope you have a good day, Eric. Well, I think that the takeaway from this is instead of getting defensive, we need to try to keep pace with someone. We need to empathize with them. We need to be angry with them, not at them. This isn't a tug-of-war. This is a negotiated situation where we're trying to understand one another. And if you and I jump into defensive mode really quickly, things are not going to go as smoothly as they could. When we first seek to understand what the other person is feeling, before we ever try to share our own view, everything works better. I hope you'll look for an opportunity today to meet someone where they are, to pace them emotionally and verbally, and with the ideas that they're sharing. And if someone accuses you of something, instead of going to defensive mode, I invite you to listen and to really hear what they're saying and to try to be as empathetic as possible in that situation so that they open up and are willing to hear the things that you would share with them. I hope that's helpful to you and the people you serve, and I look forward to seeing you again soon for another episode of the Caregiver Minute.